All right, so in today's video, we are going to talk about the top 5 free agents heading into free agency and the top 5 free agents just in general of who I think the teams, depending on what position they need, should definitely go after first. And without wasting any time, let's get right into the list. Coming in at number 5 might be a surprising pick, but I have Stefon Gilmore. Now, I know he's a bit older and I know he was injured last season, but he kind of has a Richard Sherman like feel to his career. He was dominant. Richard Sherman was dominant with the Seahawks. Stefon Gilmore was dominant with the Patriots. They both go to a different team. Now, they're not the same as they used to be, but they're still way better than any of the young guys. They're way above average than any other defensive back in football. So I think even at his age, and I still think that even if his play does fall off just a little bit, kind of like Richard Sherman's did a little bit towards the end of their career, he still, I think, is going to be one of the more viable options for a team that needs a cornerback. Now, he might be worth a lot of money, so that's where the question marks might be. But 27 career interceptions, I don't think he gets talked about enough just because he went to Carolina. Like we talked about it, like people talked about it when he first went to Carolina, but he didn't really get talked about much afterwards because Carolina is not a very good football team. Now, Carolina does have a good defense, so that might be a good landing spot for him to just stay in Carolina. But in his 9 games with them, he was very good. Again, as I said, he was injured last year. He's 31, but he still might have a couple very solid years left in him, and he could also, I know I compared him to Richard Sherman, he could have a Tyron Matthew kind of feel to a defense where it's not necessarily his play is a high level, he's not playing at a high level, but just him being a veteran and being in the NFL for so long might help boost a defense. And so Stefon Gilmore, he's definitely, I do my list a little bit different than everybody else. In my eyes, I think he would definitely be a top 5 free agent for a team that desperately needs a cornerback. Coming in at number 4, we have Chris Godwin. Now, him getting injured last year might hurt him getting that long-term deal because before he got his ACL injury, he was playing on the franchise tag, which as a player, you never want to get injured when you're on the franchise tag. It's never a good thing. I hope it doesn't hinder his career at all. But whoever does get him is going to get a great receiver. 5 years in the league, he's had two 1,000-yard receiving seasons. He's very productive, and he's a very good receiver. He's going into year 6, and last year, he had 1,100 yards in 14 games before he got injured. So last year, he was on pace to have a fantastic, monstrous season, and I think whoever gets him it's gonna be a definite upgrade at wide receiver. He's a reliable wide receiver 1. So I think if a team desperately needs a wide receiver 1, there's a lot of teams out there that desperately need that kind of guy. So I think Chris Godwin is definitely a top 5 free agent, at least in my eyes. Coming in at number 3, we have Tyron Matthew. Now, I think he might be the top defensive back free agent in the NFL this season. He's in my opinion, by far the best safety in the NFL, and that might be coming from a biased standpoint, as you can see. But whoever gets him will instantly get better. You've seen what he's done with the Chiefs. First year with the Chiefs, that defense went from terrible to slowly getting better to being basically a top 10 defense down the stretch of the season. And he might be the most instinctive guy in the entire NFL. If the ball never is thrown his way, but when it does, he is just somehow around the football, even on a run play. It just seems like Tyron Matthew is always around the football. He showed in Kansas City why he was one of the best safeties in the NFL. And I don't even think his on-field play is one of the highest level IQ players in the NFL. But I think another aspect of getting Tyron Matthew, his play is incredible and it's top tier. It's top in the NFL. But a part of him that will hopefully not go unnoticed heading into free agency is what he does to a team whenever he does get there. Yes, when he's off the field, it sucks not having him on the field. But when he's on the field for a defense, the defense doesn't just elevate because he's on the field. He's able to everybody on the team plays better when Tyron Matthew is on the field. You look at how the Chiefs played without him. Tyron Matthew's good, but great. But when he's not on the field, a defense will instantly plummet into the ground and be very, very bad. the Chiefs, Tyron Matthews, when he was out, that defense, you can tell it just struggled, and they were out of position. Just having Tyron Matthews on the field, I think, gives other guys confidence because they know Tyron Matthews so good. But Tyron Matthews will always help a guy be in the correct spot. So I think whoever gets Tyron Matthews is definitely going to be glad that they have them, even though I hope that he finds a way to stay in Kansas City. Coming in at number 2, we have Davante Adams. Easily a top 2 wide receiver in the NFL. I mean, after the season Cooper Kupp had, which was incredible, it might be hard to put him at number 1 right now. But again, he's definitely, I think, top 2. It's him and Cooper Kupp, I honestly think, are the top 2 wide receivers in the NFL. And whoever gets him, they will be, I believe, an instant threat on offense. Even though it's a bit shaky about what's going on in Green Bay, I still think he will be back in Green Bay. But even if he's not, they're getting one of the best catchers of the football in the NFL. Like he clinches onto that football so well. It's kind of beautiful. I mean, he did have Aaron Rodgers as his quarterback, so he did kind of make it look effortless. But still, he's a great catcher of the football, and he always has constant productions. And if another quarterback can get on the same page with Adams, he's going to be a very, very reliable receiver. He's between a 1,300 and 1,500 yard receiver who has 29 touchdowns in the last 2 years. So if him and his receiver can get on the same page, if he does go to a new team, I really do think Davante Adams will likely be a kind of player who can elevate the quarterback, whereas usually it's the quarterback elevating the receivers. I think Davante Adams is good enough to elevate the quarterback, and then that quarterback is going to be much better because of having Davante Adams on their team. And the number 1 free agent in my eyes is Von Miller. I mean, he's getting older, but you wouldn't know that by the way he played in the playoffs. He's 32, but you look at Tom Brady, and I know Von Miller is a defensive player, but Tom Brady played late into his, he played a really long season, and he played until he was 43. Now, Von Miller, 32, that's getting old for a defensive player. But he was a force on that Rams Super Bowl run. And he played, honestly, just as well as he ever had before. 4 sacks in the playoffs, 6 tackles for loss. But he's 32, but whoever gets him is going to get a fantastic pass rusher who I still think can play at a high level for a couple more years. That going to the Rams seemed to have a reset on Von Miller's career where he was playing at a different level, just playing better than he had, while he was with the Broncos. So I think if he goes back to the Rams, they're obviously going to be glad they have him. But if he goes to another team, they're going to be glad they have him. And I just think the Rams and winning a Super Bowl with them definitely helped Von Miller, and it probably helped him get more motivation to play longer. So I have Von Miller in my eyes as the top free agent in the NFL right now.